You're good.
Thanks. Mm, Okay. So first, we like to clarify it is AmeriCorps. That is the way that it is pronounced, sort of like Peace Corps, Job Corps, AmeriCorps, not AmeriCorps. And our next member meeting on September 16th, we'll be talking more about how, um, because I know sharing with others, like the public or whoever else, what you all do is sometimes a challenge to like get them to get it. And that like you're a volunteer and you're serving, but it's temporary, but like you're the housing nonprofit sector. So we'll talk more then about how to present yourself to the public so that people actually get it. Because if they don't get it, you're not really making a mutually beneficial connection. Um, okay. So our primary focus, also, I'm gonna turn my camera off. James, I really appreciate you keeping yours on. I just don't want it to like delay my connection or anything. And I do want to make a note. It's Holly's picture. That's fun. I do want to make a note. I have, because we do meet quite often virtually, I have seriously considered the purpose of cameras and leaving them off or on, and like who it's really for. Because I think sometimes if you're the one that is like hosting or lecturing, it is sort of like a self-serving thing because you just like obviously as people like we want attention and to know everybody's paying attention. And I don't want this to be like that. Like this is not about me. But I will add that you all are serving all across the state, and I know it's only one or two of you at your sites. And really, the only times we get together as an entire cohort is a few times a year. And so I do think that even though these virtual connections, I know it's not as rich, but if we are able to engage and turn our cameras on, I think it does create a stronger sense of community and closeness with each other. And you all deserve to feel a sense of camaraderie with one another. And I know the connections you'll make will be valuable, not just for your organization and your service, but for you personally. Um, so, anyways, Homes for All, the program that you're in, we are one of many AmeriCorps state programs. We, I'm pretty sure we're the first program that was specifically focused on addressing the affordable housing crisis through housing development, repair, as well as housing and homeless services. So, AmeriCorps, if you're not familiar, is a national service program that provides thousands of Americans with an opportunity to give back to their communities. So, there are over a dozen other AmeriCorps programs just throughout Kentucky. And then currently, Homes for All also has a VISTA program. The funding is paused, so we won't have new VISTA members until 2025. But next year, we'll have about 15 VISTA members in the Homes for All program. And VISTA is different from what you all are doing because you all are doing direct services, whereas VISTA goes more like behind the scenes. So they do things like social media, we call it capacity development, marketing, fundraising, managing volunteers, any project that is going to ensure that that housing nonprofit is stronger for 5, 10, 20 years to come, stronger than it was before the AmeriCorps Vista member came. So all of what you do is incredibly important. But I do especially admire you all for your direct service because I know it's a lot. We're not going to be touching on boundaries or like the emotional labor aspects. of direct housing services. I know it's a lot, but we will be talking about that in future. Hopefully this month, I would like to do like an open office hours virtual later in the day for us to talk about boundaries and confidentiality specifically. But yeah, that's about Homes for All. This is the AmeriCorps pledge. Um, so I urge you to reflect on this when we have our Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator. That'll be in Lexington, October 28th through 30th. And that's when we meet with all of the Kentucky State AmeriCorps programs and their members. During that time, we will have a ceremony where you all will do this pledge with everybody. And I really do take it to heart, particularly those three repetitive lines. Faced with apathy, I will take action. Faced with conflict, I will seek common ground. And faced with adversity, I will persevere. I know this service year is going to be a challenge, but if we keep coming back to those values of taking action, of seeking common ground, of persevering, we can make an unfathomable impact. AmeriCorps terms. So this part is important. And you may have already noticed already that Holly and I talk a little funky. And that is because, yeah, AmeriCorps is unique. As an AmeriCorps member, you are not an employee, you're not a worker, you're not a volunteer. You are an AmeriCorps member. So when people ask what you do, you say, I'm an AmeriCorps member. You don't say, like, I'm working at this service site. You can say, I'm an AmeriCorps member with Bethany Haven Shelter. But yeah. And then service site. And you notice how I say like serving as a verb and not working. You're serving. It is not a job. It's not employment. It's not a work site. This is, basically a 1-year contract. Your position description, which you'll be referring to throughout your service year, that's not a job description, but a description of the services that you'll provide. And then finally, your living allowance. That is not a salary, it's not a wage, it's not a stipend. And this, it's important to differentiate between these because if you all are applying for public benefits, for example, food stamps, your living allowance, according to law, does not count as a wage towards those benefits like a wage normally would, because it is a living allowance, if that makes sense. Any questions? Anything I could clarify at this point?
No.
If you are applying for things like food stamps or other public benefits, reach out to me, and I will provide a income verification letter for you to bring to your case manager, whoever is working with you, that states that this is what you make, this is your living allowance, and it is the law that it can't be counted towards your benefit like income limitations. And then AmeriCorps today, there are a ton of different sectors, all devoted to service, but it is focused a lot on education. That's what I did. A lot of the Kentucky AmeriCorps programs, it's education, but as well as the environment. That's where you see more of the national team-based programs doing restoration, conservation, disaster prep, things like that. That's sort of a little of what I did with FEMA Corps for just a little bit. And FEMA Corps is the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So if you're serving in an area that has been impacted by the floods or the tornadoes or any other major natural disaster, you'll probably hear more about them. We primarily serve with housing. And so that's homelessness, building new housing, repairing homes, serving in shelters, working with veterans, and really ensuring economic security, whatever that means Um, I'll get back to housing after health. Um, Health related to food security, independent living, medical care, and veterans, serving veterans in their health as well. Um, I think housing is special. Obviously, I'm biased. I think our program is special, but I really do believe that housing support is life support, and the housing continuum that all of us find ourselves on, from people dealing with homelessness, from people sleeping in their car, to people that, are only a few steps away from signing onto an affordable mortgage. That's that's those are all of our clients, and that's a huge, or they all need so many different things. And I'll add that, like, one of our sites is the Franklin County Farmers Market. And so that's about food security and related to health. The Biden administration created the American Climate Corps, I believe is what it's called, ACC, and they'll be doing more like conservation, disaster prep, weatherization of homes. But it all comes back to housing and homes and education. Like, we have so many members that they're mainly doing like financial literacy work, with their clients, because so many of us have never been taught how to manage money. That's a difficult skill. And so educating clients, on how to make the best choices for them in their future. So it all really ties together. And I know you all serve that spectrum in so many ways. And so, fast facts about AmeriCorps, and I think this is a couple of years old, so this is all increased. But over 1 billion hours served, 2.4 billion worth of education awards earned. That's probably my favorite aspect of the program. Serving over 1 million individuals, working with volunteers. And yeah, there are service sites all over this country. And it really is impossible to fathom all of the different projects going on, but some are really innovative and exciting. And so that's why I'm excited for the Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator, when we all get to mingle with different programs and see how they run things, and see if there are any valuable resource connections that can be made. So this is a note on Serve Kentucky, the State Service Commission. So every state has one, and they're the ones that basically they get the federal money, and then they determine where it's going to go. So they oversee the annual grant competition that is going to award that funding. They are determining whatever social needs are needed in that state, which I think is interesting, how like localized it is in that way. Um, Holly and I also attend frequent trainings, to make our programs better for you all. Um, but they also have a board that often interacts with elected officials and other community leaders. And so you'll be able to meet our program officer, Andrew Stith, at the Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator, and perhaps some other times throughout the year. Um, but they are really great at supporting us and our program's mission. But that's sort of the hierarchy of AmeriCorps. Gear, like I said, I'll be mailing this ASAP. It has been a crazy week with the in-person training, but we'll provide you with a t-shirt, and then I'll turn my camera on to show you all. I'm wearing our crew neck right now, and so you can see the HHCK logo, and then on the back, AmeriCorps Kentucky. And again, I'm sorry I'm on my couch. My Wi-Fi only works out here. But this is our shirt, and then we got another like red t-shirt. Um, what else? Some like water bottles, some pins, Yeah, stickers, pins, decals, lanyards, all that. We'll be ordering you all name tags if you don't have one already. Um, but basically, our only expectation when it comes to what you wear is that there is some piece that you're wearing that identifies you as an AmeriCorps member. So even if it's just like a little pin with the AmeriCorps A, or your name tags will have the AmeriCorps logo on it, just something, your lanyard, something to signify that you're an AmeriCorps member. Um, and then, yeah, whatever your service site provides. Um, we it's nice if they provide gear and they're also able to add on the HHCK, the Homes for All logo onto that. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need that logo or anything. Happy to share. But yeah, if you feel there's anything else you need, um, let me know. Sorry, it's a little delayed when I click next. Did I skip one? Yes. Okay. HHCK. So basically, like I said, the hierarchy is the money comes from the federal government. It goes to the State Service Commission, Serve Kentucky, and then it's dispersed to the programs. Every program has a program sponsor. So the Homes for All program sponsor is the Homeless and Housing Coalition of Kentucky. So this is who pays our checks. Um, and we have an AmeriCorps state program, that's you all, our AmeriCorps Vista program. HHCK provides supportive housing programs such as housing vouchers, and like leasing navigation services, mediating with landlords, things like that. But also advocacy and education. Our executive director, Adrian Bush, um, is very involved in advocacy, and our main office is in Frankfurt, downtown. So if y'all are ever around that area, feel free to visit. But yeah, Adrian is often at the Capitol, advocating for good policy to support our clients. So that looks like, for example, in the last legislative session, um, we lobbied, or Adrian lobbied, not me or AmeriCorps, but Adrian lobbied to get the homeless like identification bill passed, basically making it so that if somebody is homeless, they can get their ID for free. They don't have to pay for it, since that's a significant barrier to somebody getting their ID, and we all need one in particular in like order to vote. So things like that is what HHCK advocates for. Um, yeah, so it's sort of like these four different or three different branches: the AmeriCorps, supportive housing, and then advocacy. These are our sites. It might be a little updated now because we added a couple. Like, yeah, we have one in London now. Um, yeah, Paducah. I think that covers it. But this is where we're all at. So we're everywhere, really, at every side of the state from Ashland to Paducah. Um, so if you ever find yourself near these areas, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to try to coordinate connecting you with other um, AmeriCorps members. I do want to do a better job this year of like connecting with other programs with members that live near you all for y'all to connect. Um, uh, yeah, if you're interested in like a specific sector, let me know. Like if you would like to get connected with like education programs, happy to talk about that. But for the most part, I feel like we are most aligned with other AmeriCorps members serving in programs that are focused on economic opportunity. That's technically our sector, economic opportunity and development. So yeah, like I said, housing support is life support. So really any and all connections that we can make to build our resource capacity is solid. Okay. I say this all the time, but it is really crucial to make the most of your service and to make your service year work for you. The service year is going to bring forth, depending on your site, like so many different opportunities for things that you might never do again, or you wouldn't have had a chance to otherwise. Um, I really encourage members to have an open mind, working outside of your comfort zone, trying a new role, or just checking something new out, just being open minded. My little anecdote is that when I applied for City Year, it was because I left a different AmeriCorps program and I was just wanting to serve. I didn't care how, even though I really wasn't that interested in education. Like, I thought teachers were mad for wanting to go back to school. Um, but I went there because I just wanted to serve, and I ended up falling in love with it, with my 6th grade classroom, um, which, yeah, I wouldn't have believed a year prior, but it really did a 180 for me, and, I studied education in college. It's still, really one of my main passions, and so I think this is a great opportunity just to check out new things, and I think a big aspect of professional development is just trying new things to figure out what you don't like, like, when I was working in FEMA Corps, like, I realized I was not interested in working in, a bureaucratic, like, government, federal org like that. Figured that out, and that has, set me on a path that I feel I'm closer to and meant to be on, so yeah, the point of that story is just to be open-minded, try new things, be creative about, like, what you ask for, make opportunities, and talk to your site supervisor about if there's somebody you can shadow or some other role that you can look into on your site or out of it. Ask about, what trainings they're willing to pay for, things like that. So you'll get out what you put into it, and all of your sites have very unique opportunities. So take advantage of them. Um, yeah, be present, give your best effort. It really means the world to Holly and I when we are able to get together and see you all and just have some communion um, with each other. So thank you. So AmeriCorps alumni. AmeriCorps, I sort of just said how it can change your life. Um, Studies have shown that AmeriCorps alums are more connected to their communities. I see that as like the biggest, like, members. When I ask, what are you most proud of achieving from your service year? A lot of them say, just knowing what services and benefits are out there for people. 'Cause it's not helping anybody not knowing what's out there. So just being more connected, to their community and the people that are in it and knowing what's going on. Um, AmeriCorps alumni continue to participate in community activities after service. I mean, I'm really full circle, now helping manage an AmeriCorps program, um, but, I mean, having a spirit of service, I know y'all already got it, and you already care deeply about your communities, and that's just like a lifelong value. Um, so it is, mutually reinforcing. Um, but alumni are also more likely to choose public service careers in, disproportionately high levels. So we'll have more conversations towards the end of the year on, like, career development and things like that, but we'll definitely discuss, public service opportunities, and where members can go after service, because it's really wherever, from federal government to state government to the nonprofit sector, um, yeah. we're about done with this presentation. So yeah, as I said, be present, ask questions, connect. Remember, your service year is what you make of it. Um, and then this is our contact info. Once again, I'll be sharing all of this information. These are our socials. So yeah, it is 1:40. We zoomed through that. Um, let's take a 5-minute break. Um, we'll come back at 1:45 and let's talk about do we want to do the boring ones, like get over with now, or wait till later? Um, actually, I'll save member development for last because that's like all the fun stuff we've got planned for the year. Next, performance measures is important, so I also want to say that for later. We'll talk about policies and procedures next. This one's probably our longest, so that's why I want to take just a little break now for everybody to tinkle, get a drink. Um, let's see. Thank you all so much for sharing in the chat. I'm sorry if I missed any questions. It doesn't look like it. Good. Just introduction. So yeah, thank y'all for introducing yourself. But 1:46, we'll get started on policies and procedures. Thank y'all. Okay, I'm just popping up this mood meter. Doing a check-in on how you all are feeling. So, where did it go? Just had it. Y'all see that? So yeah, feel free to enter your mood in the chat. Sorry about the noise. Just checking in to see where everybody's at and how we're feeling. Um, like I said, this policies and procedures is going to be the longest and perhaps most detailed. Um, so I appreciate your patience. But yeah, just enter your mood in the chat, checking in with everybody. Um, and let's go over policies and procedures. So something that'll be mailed to you with your gear is a poster of prohibited activities, allowable and prohibited activities. So since you all are, your living allowance is paid for through federal funds, and so like any grant funding, um, there are restrictions on what you can and cannot do um, when receiving that money. Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm glad y'all are feeling chill. Um, yeah. And like I said, if I know it's towards the end of the day, I just want y'all to like go on autopilot, but if there is an aspect that I'm going too fast or maybe you do zoom out, um, you'll get the recording after this. We'll upload it to our YouTube channel so you can review whatever section whenever you want. Um, but yeah, I'm also hungry. I was in Moorhead where you're at, Noel. Okay. So first we're going to go over the member service agreement. And so that was the big enrollment packet that you signed. So we'll talk about those terms in the specifics. Hold on, let me hide my view. Okay. So your MSA terms, basically your service contract. So yeah, you sign this when completing your enrollment paperwork. It is not employment. Unemployment compensation does not apply. And most of you, all of you, your service term goes until July 31st of 2025. So this is what we use to determine your eligibility. If you're here, you met this eligibility. Your position description, this is like the 2-pager that you signed with your site supervisor. That I mentioned is going to be really helpful to look at throughout your service year, just to kind of get refocused on your role and expectations. And yeah, that was signed by your site supervisor, you, and the AmeriCorps program director. If you want like another copy of any of this documentation, if you lost it for some reason, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to provide it. So now we're going to talk about unallowable activities. So these are not prohibited, but not necessarily allowable. So for example, and activities is basically something that you're doing when you are logging service hours. So as long as you're not logging housing service hours onto your timesheet, do what you want, as long as it's legal. Like that's just general advice. But for example, you could not say like, oh, I don't feel like going to my site tomorrow for like half a day, so I'm just going to spend the other half of the day at an animal shelter. Like you can't log hours for that time being at an animal shelter. You're welcome to do that on your own time, but not while logging housing service hours. Um, some other type of volunteer activity if it's not like program specific. So we'll talk about in the member development slides that like for MLK Day and in the spring, we do service projects um, where you can be doing a variety of things, but those are yeah, special projects with a particular focus and intention. So if there is any activity that is not on your position description, it needs to be brought to my attention or just like double checked if you're not sure. Um, yeah, any questions initially?
Nope.
Cool, thank you. Your term of service, most of y'all are committed to serving 1,700 hours. Um, but for example, I only did a half a year, 6 months, but I was 900 hours. So I did 6 months full time, and that was 900 hours. Um, but once you complete that service hour requirement, you get your education award. And you can apply to serve again. I'll add, we have 14 returning members, many of them here. And so a lot of our members do like to continue serving at their sites even after their first year. But I will say that that is based upon like mutual agreement between your site, you, and Holly and I. Um, So yeah, your schedule for a full-time 1,700-hour member is 37.5 hours a week. And yeah, most of your day-to-day, it's going to be decided between you, um, your site, and your site supervisor. We will talk about timesheets in another slide, but you've probably received an email about how to log into your account. I know it's not like the prettiest website, um, but there's also an app now that should make it easier for y'all to enter those hours. We do it weekly just so that it's easier for y'all to like implement it into your schedule and routine, um, and easier to remember what you're devoting your time to. But yeah, we'll talk about that more in depth in a little bit. This is all of our fun events that we'll be doing this year. It has required participation. So orientation, like we're doing right now, this virtual orientation suffices for the orientation requirement. We do a couple days of service in October 28th through 30th. I'll attach the registration form in the recap email from this orientation meeting, and that'll have more details about the AmeriCorps Accelerated training in Lexington. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's our next big event, really. Spring Service Project, we'll talk about it in end of year training. At all of these, we provide lodging, mileage, and food whenever necessary. And then monthly trainings, our next monthly training will be September 16th, which I already mentioned. We'll be talking about how to communicate digitally since so many of us are having to do that, but also how to communicate with people that don't know much about AmeriCorps. Additionally, on September 16th at 2, it is at 2, I'll send the Google Calendar invite, but we'll also be talking about the Member Assistance Program, um, which is provided by the State Service Commission, and we pay for it. And that provides a plethora of tons of benefits for you all, from counseling to like healthcare advocacy, to like financial, like budgeting help, all kinds of stuff. So we'll talk about that more in depth then. But yeah, you can't just like choose to serve at your site instead of attending a training. Your sites are well aware of all of these events that are required, including monthly meetings. So I always am a huge advocate of just open communication, making sure that your site supervisor reminding them what's coming up. Hey, I'm not going to be here for that time, keeping your calendar up to date. That's also just really great for boundaries for yourself. Holly and I are very reasonable. If for some reason you can't make it, like you all not being able to make the in-person orientation, we may ask for supporting documentation, but for the most part, we understand y'all are all across the state, and we live in a rural state, so we're happy to meet you where you're at. But with that, I also ask that like you're doing your best to try to engage. Personally, full-time members get 10 sick days, 10 vacation days. Half-time members get half of that, basically half of all the benefits. Time not served does not count for any hours. So if you, and we'll talk about this more with timesheets, but for example, if you take your lunch break, like that half hour does not go towards the hour requirement. Um, yes, so the 37 and a half full-time hour week, that is what allows members to take these days off. So as long as you're keeping track with that full-time 37 and a half hours, you will be able to stay on track and to meet your hour requirement while also being able to use your PTO and sick days. But yeah, as that note said, it only works if you stay on track with your hours. Yeah, and I do want to make a note about like the lunchtime. Y'all aren't employees. Like I encourage you all to take breaks and to take a lunch if that's like a normal thing at your site. Um, and to yeah, just take a break. Like that's important. That's important self-care and boundaries. But also, I recognize a lot of you are like really busy at your sites. And although you might say that you're taking a lunch, you might be texting a client or like getting a phone call or somebody walks into your office, like stuff always pops up. And that's service, like you're doing service and that deserves to be accounted for. And so I do not want you logging a lunch unless, you are having like a significant like half hour or more, like uninterrupted break. Okay. If it's interrupted, that's not a break. Questions? This is 675 hour members. I don't think we have any in here. No. These are holidays. We just have Labor Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, Winter Memorial Day, Juneteenth, and July 4th. I know a lot of our shelters, the hours are a lot more flexible. Um, and so, for example, if you served on Veterans Day, you could then decide to take another day off, sort of as like a replacement because you worked on that holiday. Does that make sense? And yeah, these holidays are built in, but only if you stay on track with your hours, because when you're not serving, your hours are not going towards the hour requirement. We provide the living allowance, 20,100. It should say in your MSA the exact amount that you'll be receiving biweekly. We provide single health insurance. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to Holly or I if you requested to be enrolled. Childcare assistance. I'll include the link in the recap email for this meeting on where to apply for that. That is through AmeriCorps. At the completion of your service, you receive your education award, which is 6,375, 95, something around that. While you're serving, you apply for loan forbearance. While your loans are in forbearance, they can still accrue interest. So at the completion of your service, you can apply to have that interest paid as well. And then other support services like the member assistance program and all of the member development opportunities. So the difference between 1,700 and 900 hours are not 900-hour members are not eligible for health insurance or child care assistance. Was it one more thing? I think, yeah, basically those two benefits. I'm going to skim over this because this is probably not going to apply to you. If you need to telework, talk to your site supervisor and talk to us about it. Um, yeah, sometimes you might get sick, you might get COVID. I know after the holidays, like might get snowed in, so we'll work with you um, to make sure that you stay on track with hours and are able to serve. Again, this is more of a COVID thing, so I'm just skimming. Okay, so bare minimum expectation is responding to communications and emails. Um, if asking for a response, if it's just like the monthly email, like no need to respond. That's just like a newsletter with updates and stuff. But if I'm reaching out, asking, saying, hey, I want to schedule a check-in and just see how you're doing, responding in a timely manner. Now I'm Gen Z, so like timely manner can mean, I've realized, mean a lot of things, like a lot of different people. Um, I mean, really within like 48 hours, I think is acceptable. I'm happy with that. Y'all responded to me within that time. I know you're really busy at your sites. A lot of you aren't checking your email regularly. Um, but at least checking it once a day to see what's new. Submitting timesheets weekly. If you don't submit your timesheet weekly on that Monday, I'll send a reminder. It's not pointed. I'm not judging. I know y'all are busy. It's just saying, hey, reminder to submit this because I know some of y'all also submit like a lot of paperwork and stuff for your actual site as well. So I get it. Completing the monthly performance measure reporting. We'll talk about the specifics of performance measures, but those are due at our monthly member meeting. So, for example, returning members, our monthly member meeting on September 16th, that is when you'll submit the performance measures for August. Yes. Oh, go back. But new members, um, we'll talk about performance measures and just figure out how to integrate it however you can at this point, like in the way that makes sense to you at your site. Sorry, it won't let me go back. Okay, I think that was all. The levels, you can see that in your member service agreement. Those are the like levels of misconduct. Um, and those just go up with like level of severity. So prohibited activities, you'll get a poster of this to be displayed in your office or wherever it's visible at your site. But essentially, while you're logging service hours, housing service hours, or any service hours for AmeriCorps, you cannot be doing these things. This is probably what we get the most questions on. So yeah, feel free to drop them in the chat. But while logging time for AmeriCorps housing service hours, you cannot be attempting to influence legislation. So you can't be like going to Frankfurt and like lobbying with your legislature asking for, more housing funding or for a particular program. That's just not allowed. AmeriCorps does encourage like getting involved with your public officials and like if, for example, Housing Development Alliance, they're in Hazard. Hazard was hit really bad by the floods, and so they've been working really hard to repair. And Governor Bashir has been there like countless times. And so that's a great opportunity for that person with political power to become a champion of AmeriCorps and to see the awesome work that y'all are doing at your sites. But it's really celebrating your service. The buck stops when it comes to like promoting a certain policy or legislation law. We cannot do that. Now, again, like you are a free citizen, you're more than welcome to do this on your own time. Um, yeah, you just can't be logging service hours. Does that make sense? So, along with that, like organizing or engaging in protests, petitions, boycotts, or strikes, do it on your own time. Um, assisting, promoting, or deterring union organizing, do it on your own time. Collective bargaining, I'm not sure how that is similar or different from the union organizing, but yeah, basically just working with unions can be doing that while logging service hours. Union organizing specifically, um, or engaging in partisan political activities. Questions about this? Because it continues, but these ones in particular, because I know it's an election year. Um, so yeah, like while you're serving, try to avoid, and this goes into like confidentiality too, but like avoid having like politically charged decorations in your office, or whatever. Just keep it to yourself, keep it to your own time. Okay. So continued. Um, I'm trying to move the little icon to be able to read it all. Okay. So yeah, any kind of like activity that's like advocacy for or against political parties, political platforms, political candidates, legislation, or elected officials is a no-go. So like I said, HHCK, they have an advocacy branch. I really value that advocacy and what they do, but I cannot be involved in that. I do not go with Adrian to the Capitol to talk with elected officials. I am not um you know, telling you all like what to believe with like housing policy um, or whatever like political party. That's just not our realm. So it's important to have that clear sort of line of delineation. And honestly, again, this is another boundary aspect, but that's I don't know, not a bad thing when we're in an election year, and I'm sure we all feel it's like we're sort of going mad just hearing about it all the time. But when you're serving, um, politics do not come into that space, right? Same with engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services. Um, I will say that we do partner with religious organizations all the time. Um, but doing something that is directly supporting that religious mission cannot be done um, while getting AmeriCorps service hours. And I'll say this over and over again: if you're unsure, just ask. I'm never gonna like get you in trouble um, for doing something. Um, like, well, don't do it. Like, ask before you even do it. Um, yeah, like it doesn't. It's not gonna hurt you to ask. And it's just important to be clear about what your limitations are, um, because yeah, this program is paid for with federal funding, and if we are found to be out of compliance with these prohibited activities, like somebody's got to pay that money back. So I know this is boring, but it is important. And if you're not sure, do not hesitate to ask. But yeah, basically, you just cannot be providing a direct benefit to a business organized for profit, a labor union, a partisan political organization, an org engaged in religious activities. And again, this is all in the prohibited activities flyer that I'll be sending, as well as your MSA. Um, yeah, no lobbying. I think we got it. Again, um, yeah, it's an election year, so you cannot be conducting a voter registration drive with your AmeriCorps shirt on. I encourage you when you go to vote, to not like try to avoid displaying like AmeriCorps gear. Um, but yeah, cannot be using AmeriCorps funds to conduct a voter registration drive, things like that. Number 10, I don't think this can't provide abortion services while getting time for housing services for the hour requirement. Um, but back to number 9, I will say that I've provided a resource, and I will again in the emails up until the election, for a resource called Vote Rider. And basically, what they'll do is your client, if you could refer your client to them, and then they will get them connected with somebody that can both take them to go get documentation that they need to vote, but also pay for it. So honestly, like a lot of our clients, they may not be that interested in voting, but they do need like their ID or their birth certificate or their social security card. Like that's really important. And so just them having that and making it easier for them to get that, um, that's not influencing their politics in any way, right? That's just increasing access to them. Questions? But yeah, and to that last point, you are a free citizen. I encourage you to be civically and politically engaged in your own time, but just not while wearing the AmeriCorps logo. Same as like if we, like at Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator last year, if you want to go out for like drinks, just try to remove your AmeriCorps logo. Take seriously being a model um, of public service. It is not a census year. Y'all aren't doing any census activities. The members can't be doing that while logging hours. Yeah, no services for election or polling locations are in support of such activities. Do it on your own time. If you're not sure, ask. Yeah. Okay. It's 2:13. We're flying through. Wow. Let me check if there are any questions in the chat. No? Beautiful. Okay. So this is a scenario. Feel free to, you can say it out loud or put it in the chat. But during her free time, an AmeriCorps member has been frequently sharing her political position regarding the upcoming gubernatorial election on Facebook. The member's Facebook profile photo shows her wearing the AmeriCorps service gear issued by her program at the beginning of the service year. Is this okay or not okay? And we didn't talk about social media, but we'll talk about it now. But let me know what y'all think. Should they be getting service hours while doing this? Definitely shouldn't be doing it or being on Facebook while you're at your site. But really, the main issue with this one is, yeah, not allowed. But the main issue is having that conflation of like on the same profile. Yeah, no. Having both AmeriCorps and your like political beliefs on the same profile. I think a good rule of thumb is to just like keep those worlds separate whenever possible. So if you want to post political stuff, like just don't post stuff about AmeriCorps or pictures of you and your gear. Um, if you want to post AmeriCorps stuff, don't post political stuff. If you want to use Facebook for AmeriCorps stuff and like X, Twitter, or something like whatever, but keep it separate worlds. Does that make sense? Anything I can clarify? Yeah, this is really important in an election year. They're just trying to be careful. And again, this is also about confidentiality, protecting our confidentiality, client confidentiality, safety, and whatnot. Okay, scenario 2. After a series of tornadoes destroyed several small towns along the Mississippi River, a team of AmeriCorps members were deployed by the Federal AmeriCorps Agency to engage in disaster response. As part of the disaster response, several members were asked by a local pastor to recruit and manage volunteers who would provide spiritual counseling and prayer groups for the community to help citizens cope with the disaster. Is this allowed or not allowed? And apologies to returning members that these aren't new scenarios. But if you all have any scenarios that you faced that you would like to share, feel free to. Would this be prohibited or not? Could they log hours while providing spiritual counseling? Oh, sorry, I gave it away. I was trying to, yeah, that one is not allowed as well. So doing something that is directly benefiting that like religious spiritual mission of the church um, is a no-go. But I know both in Western Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky, when they were hit by natural disasters, like religious organizations were huge at helping with a lot of that initial cleanup and support. So it's okay if your primary intent and mission is to um, provide that poverty support and services and emergency services, but um, it cannot be directly benefiting those like religious intentions. That makes sense. Um, okay. Following the destruction of a local church, a team of AmeriCorps members would like to volunteer to help clear away debris from the site so reconstruction can begin. Members live in the community. They serve at a local nonprofit where many of their program staff and clients are members of the destroyed church. The members will volunteer on their own time with their family and friends to help the church. How's this? Yeah, this is okay because they're doing it on their own time, mainly. Mm, okay, this one is related to engaging with elected officials. So this is a group of AmeriCorps members serving in a large after-school program. They want to petition the city's mayor. The members provide academic enrichment activities. The mayor is considering cutting subsidized public transit passes for youth attending after-school programs. The AmeriCorps members are concerned that their students will no longer be able to participate in their program. They argue that the city's budget has nothing to do with their AmeriCorps program, and they should be allowed to petition the mayor and earn AmeriCorps service hours for doing so. How are we feeling about this one? Excuse me. Yeah, this one they just can't earn service hours. Attempting to influence legislation, that's like the number one prohibited activity, really. So yeah, they can do it on their own time. They can even tell that mayor, like, I serve at this school and this is something that's really important to me, but cannot be doing that while getting service hours. Okay, so common issues that happen. So that's when stuff is happening that shouldn't be happening on AmeriCorps time. Um, if you're doing something that is on that prohibited activities list, just make sure you don't log housing service hours for that, or any other service hours. Um, Another common issue is, yeah, wearing that logo or representing AmeriCorps when you're not serving in that capacity. So yeah, if you go out for like go out after work with like your coworkers or whatever, just making sure that like AmeriCorps gear isn't on and you're not representing AmeriCorps in that space. So yeah, the biggest concerns are mainly politics and religion. The people that are paying for our program want to make sure that um, we're doing this apolitically and we're focused on the issues at hand. Okay, so these are the details regarding like what it would entail for a member to get suspended from service. So if a member is facing an official charge of a violent felony or sale or distribution of a controlled substance or convicted of possession of a controlled substance, we may suspend members when they are charged with other misdemeanors or felonies or in violation of multiple level 1 standards or level 2 standards. And again, those are in your member service agreement. So if you are charged with something, um, just make sure you have a responsibility to let us know, so that we know what's going on and can determine how to move forward. Um, so if the individual is found not guilty, if the charge is dismissed, um, a member can be reinstated into service. Um, if somebody's convicted of a charge with a controlled substance and they're enrolled in a drug rehabilitation program, they can be reinstated. Okay. Now this compelling release from service. So life happens. Sometimes things just come up. So we do want members to just be aware that this is an option. And again, the details are in your member service agreement. But a member may be released with compelling personal circumstances if they have um, a serious injury, illness, or become pregnant, and so they're unable to complete their service term. A death of an immediate family member, and the members need to care for that family member or take over the duties of the family member. That suffices for a compelling exit. And what it means with compelling exit is basically that like in the army, if you are fired and it was not okay, it's like being dishonorably discharged. A compelling exit is like this isn't the army, but being like honorably discharged. And basically you would be able to come back to AmeriCorps and they can see that there were compelling circumstances that caused you to exit, but they had nothing to do with your personal commitment to the program and service. It was just life. So what happens whenever this is necessary, we'll ask for documentation. That documentation is submitted to the State Service Commission, Serve Kentucky, and that's who ultimately makes the decision. If a member has served at least 15% of their service hours, they will get a prorated education award. So if you served 80% of your hours and then you break your ankle and that makes doing your service impossible for the next couple months, and you would get that percentage of completion. What is that, 80%? um, that's how much of your education award you would receive. So circumstances that are not compelling, it is not a compelling exit. Dishonorably discharged if you enroll in school and are just like, oh, like I just have too much on my plate with school right now, so I can't fulfill my commitment, or obtaining employment, or just having dissatisfaction with the program or site. The exception for obtaining employment that was added, um, basically, like if you are in the poverty threshold, likely if you receive food stamps, or other public benefits, if you were to be hired by your site or elsewhere, and it's a better opportunity for you, it would be a better um, living standard. That could be considered a compelling exit, um, which is a really positive development because obviously that's the goal. is for you all to be able to get hired by your site and to move on to better and brighter opportunities. And so, yeah, that exception is nice to cater to members that are most needing those opportunities. But yeah, if you're just like having problems with your site supervisor and like it can't be mediated or something like that's not a compelling reason. Questions, comments, concerns? Don't see anything in the chat. Okay. For cause. So members will be exited for cause um, if they elect to leave the program without compelling circumstances, if they explicitly express no intent to complete their service requirements or their term, conviction of a felony or possession of a controlled substance, an obvious pattern of misconduct or poor judgment, multiple level 1 or 2 violations, or one level 3 violation, gross violations of standards of conduct, and this would also make one ineligible for future service positions with AmeriCorps, or any other serious breach that would undermine the effectiveness of the program. So if you are released for cause, you would not receive access to the education award, and benefits would cease immediately. Questions? And well, we may talk about it. Let me keep going. So fundraising. Most of y'all won't be doing this very much, but if you are, basically, you just need to let us know. Just run it by our radar, what's going on, who it's benefiting. Allowable fundraising is like securing supplies and equipment from the community to enable volunteers to help build houses for low-income individuals, or like doing a donation drive for like Christmas toys or something like that. Securing financial resources from the community to assist in launching or expanding a program that provides social services to the members of that community. And it has to be through like your site, that community-based org. Or allowable is seeking donations from alumni of the program for specific service projects being performed by members. Not allowable is writing a grant application to AmeriCorps. That's not allowed. General fundraising for operating expenses or endowment, which is basically like the savings, like that's not allowed for your org. So if your organization has a fundraising event coming up and you're not sure, just be sure to contact us ahead of time. And this is important because when you go and log this time, on your timesheet, there is a designation for fundraising. I'm going to see that, and if you didn't run it by me, I'm going to wonder like what was going on, what you did, and I will reach out. And yeah, like that says, what you're being asked to do might not even be considered fundraising. So just double check. It's probably nothing to worry about, but just want to make sure that we're on the same page. And y'all do direct service, so yeah, you're not going to be doing a lot of fundraising. If you are, it shouldn't be more than 10% of your hours. And again, if you don't see fundraising on your position description, then yeah, you shouldn't be messing with it. We do follow a drug-free workplace policy. That second bullet on civil rights, basically, once again stating you're a free citizen. You can do whatever activities you want to do. Like I said, keep it legal and keep it on your own time. That's all that matters to me. But I want you all to be engaged, and I want you to be sharing your perspectives and story, because I think you all have one of the best perspectives on the real situation on the ground of this housing crisis and how we can fix it. Grievance procedure. Yes, that is in your member service agreement. So if there is a grievance between Homes for All and a member, or a service site and a member, there are specific instructions on how we'd go about that. dress code and AmeriCorps brand, and just keep that logo on you at all times. If you want the logo or um, whatever, just let me know. Um, I really encourage you to send lots of pictures of you at your site. We always love getting photos of you all serving. So just make sure that that AmeriCorps logo is you're showing it off or some other type of AmeriCorps signage. And yeah, I would love to see that. Please send it my way. Yeah, we encourage you to vote if you're able to. We can't require you to do so or influence how you do it. That goes for me to you and you to clients. You cannot count hours for that time, but we will ensure that there's time in your schedule for you to do it. Your site supervisor should be understanding, but if they're not, reach out to us and we'll figure it out. But we want to make sure that you're able to vote for sure. If you're in the Armed Forces Reserve, um, and there's a 2-week active duty requirement, that is excused, and that's fine. Same with jury duty. If you're called to jury duty, we encourage you to serve, and you would be accruing normal service hours during that time. That way you don't, um, yeah, you don't fall behind on your hours for something that was out of your control. Okay, how are we feeling? Is that it? Yeah, sick. Okay, let's, what time is it? It is 2:32. Okay, let's talk about performance measures and timesheets. Perhaps the most boring, but the most important. So yeah, timesheets. So America Learns, that's the software that we use. I would highly, highly recommend bookmarking the link to the login page for America Learns because yeah, you'll need it every week at least. So yeah, this is our agenda. This is what it's going to look like on that front page when you log in. So you can see our calendar, news, updates, and then yeah, there are timesheet submitting reminders. We update the news monthly. Next year, you all might see announcements for Vista, but just ignore those. You all are not Vista. Um, all this information is pulled from the Google Calendar, and I also include like important updates and announcements and upcoming dates in the monthly emails. So I send one for like August to September, but I'll be sending another one for September with news and updates. But upcoming dates that are important will always be on America Learns. So this is what your timesheet dashboard looks like. So what's really nice about America Learns is that it tells you the average number of weekly hours needed for education award eligibility. Again, that amount does not take into consideration time off. So like it says there, like 32.7 hours. So if you're like, oh, great, like I only have to serve 33 hours a week. If you do that and you're not serving 37.5 hours a week, you're not going to have any time. You're not going to be able to take PTO and sick time because you're not going to be able to stay on track. So that is it is helpful to look at that number, but just be sure to keep that in mind. Something I'll also note is that after you submit your timesheet, it's going to go to your site supervisor and then me. Your site supervisor is required to approve your timesheets every week if they're piling up and your supervisor hasn't approved them for me to approve, your average is going to look a little squirrely. But don't freak out if it says that you need like 43 hours or something, because that's just because those timesheets need to be approved by me or your supervisor. So don't freak out. You're more than welcome to give your supervisor a little tap on the shoulder, say, hey, quickly approve my timesheets on AmeriCorps Learn so Valerie can approve them and my average will be updated. I'll also occasionally send reminders if there is quite a big backlog. But yeah, you can also like calculate it yourself with math because it'll tell you the number of hours, like pending hours versus approved hours. So you could delete those pending hours from the remaining hours and the weeks left. Divide that by the weeks left. It's really, yeah, don't panic if it looks funny. I keep Laura, if you haven't, I will resend you a password email setup. Yeah, any questions about this page and what it looks like? Okay. So you'll be able to view all of your submitted timesheets whenever you want. I'll say the one thing about AmeriCorps Learns that kind of stinks is that it does not keep track of how many PTO and sick days used. You've got to keep track of that manually. I do have, like, in your file, I track that as we go. So if you want an update and you haven't been keeping track, you're welcome to ask me how many days you've used and have left. But you can also review all of your own timesheets whenever. You'll see where number 5, that's where those are timesheets that you have not submitted yet. You cannot submit a timesheet before that timesheet is like complete, because that time is over, if that makes sense. So don't try to submit it early. I don't think it will let you. And then that last one. So for example, if you submit a timesheet and your supervisor, says like, oh, like you forgot to add that you were at this event, they can deny it. Same with me. I can deny your timesheet and it'll go back to you to edit and resubmit. Okay. If you submit a timesheet and you mess something up, that's okay. Just ask me or your supervisor. We can deny it and send it back to you to fix it. Okay, so these are all of the different categories. You all, for the vast majority of the time, will be doing housing services. That's your direct services. Capacity building activities is mainly for Vista. Y'all really got nothing to do with that. And yeah, we'll probably not be doing teleservice, but we'll talk about that if you are. Training. So this time, in the recap email, you all will be logging 3 hours under AmeriCorps training. Any of the resources that I send to you all, news, development opportunities, virtual, like asynchronous resources, whatever, log all of that under AmeriCorps training. Okay? And whenever you are doing training that is prescribed by your site, that is site-specific training. Okay? Yeah, y'all will rarely be doing fundraising, but it's still on there. Now, so for each day of the timesheet period, you'll need to use the time in and time out drop-down boxes, and then you'll allocate which hours went to what, or what amount of hours went to each category, right? So it has to add up to the total time that you'll receive credit for. Again, if you take a lunch or a break, that is time you wouldn't be receiving credit for. It would not be going towards your hour requirement. Okay. But yeah, any questions about this? And I know this is one of those things where you just gotta get in there and do it and figure it out. I will say if you run into obstacles, the America Learns help desk, um, they're very helpful and really on it. So I appreciate them whenever I've had issues. Let's see. Jennifer, they're really, I don't think there's a limit. It's not like the 10% fundraising limit. Jennifer asked, how many hours can you use for AmeriCorps training and site training towards your service hours? Maybe it's like you can't do more than like 50% or something, but yeah, you all should not be nearing that, or that be something to worry about. Like I said, housing support is life support. Housing services is like life support services. That can be anything and everything, really. So yeah, even like if you're in a shelter and like talking to a client that is in emotional distress, that is housing services. Okay. Okay. So yeah, if whatever all the time that you entered in each category, it all gets added up. And then whatever that amount is, if there's still time left over, then it automatically says, okay, that was a break. That'll be logged as a break, and you will not receive credit for that. Some features, you can save your timesheet, um, the whole thing, and you can also copy and paste it. So if you're working a regular schedule, you can copy and paste that schedule. So you don't have to repeatedly be entering it. Yes. Yeah, Holly in this presentation has some screenshots for the app, which we can't use like as administrators on it, but from the screenshots, it looks like a lot more user friendly. So yeah, I'll show what that looks like. Okay, so days that you did not serve, you will select the reason why. So we still have COVID on there. If you have COVID and that's why you can't serve, PTO, sick day, weather-related closure, and then weekend. You don't necessarily have to serve your weekend on like Saturday and Sunday. Again, like every site is different, every schedule is different. I will also say that like at some sites, members will serve like 10 hours for 4 days and take a 3-day weekend. Like if your site is cool with that and able to do that, like that's fine. And you would be marking 3 days as weekend. There's not like a limit on how many of these days you can select. But again, it does not track the dates that you did not serve and what that time is allocated to. So keep track of your sick and PTO time. Yeah. Questions? Let's see. Impact Suite. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that is the name of the app. So yeah, once you complete your timesheet, and this is also what I see on my end. I see what hours are allocated to what, and the total time you receive credit for. Now this says total time 75 hours. This was a biweekly timesheet. Y'all are not submitting biweekly timesheets. Yours are weekly, so they should just be 37 and a half if you're full time. And then you'll just enter your name and submit it. And then your supervisor does the same thing. They review it, they enter their name, submit, and then it comes to me or Holly. Okay, this is the app. Yes, AmeriCorps Learns Impact Suite. And that's what it looks like there. It says it's compatible with iPhone and Android. I don't know if like if one is significantly better or not, but I definitely encourage you all to try because it's a way to make it easier and more accessible for y'all to access your timesheets when you're out and about. but this is what the login page looks like. It looks so much better than the website. I really don't understand how the website looks so busted, but this app is cute. So the username is the email your account is connected to. And yeah, you can save your username to make logging in easier, faster. Oh, and Face ID. Wow. You can receive notifications whenever a new timesheet opens, which is like the day of the start of that new timesheet period. Um, you can get notifications when a timesheet's due, when a timesheet has been returned, and needs you to edit it and submit it back, or when your timesheet's been approved. So your own preference, whatever you want. But yeah, if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Yeah, I want to make sure you all feel sorted and comfortable with that platform. Um, so yeah, this and performance measures will probably be the two presentations that you'll want to review later. So I'll be sure to share that recording with you all. Okay. Let's cover performance measures. We are Zoom in. I do think we are on track to end a little early, but I'm going to keep pushing if that's okay. All right. So you might have heard us say performance measures. What is that? That is basically just how we collect data. I say this all the time. I'm going to say it from the jump. Performance measures have nothing to do with like us assessing your performance as a measure. It's not like, we're judging how many households or individuals you serve. Every site's different. Every role is different. Like, we know y'all are doing your best. That's what matters. This is really just great data for us for when we're applying for other grants, trying to get more money from AmeriCorps and to show them, like, look at how much we've done. Look at how many households we have served and permanently housed, and how many, single parents with children we've supported, things like that. So that data is just crucial for us to promote our program. But I'll also add performance measure data is like really helpful we'll talk about career development way later down the road, but you can enter this data on your resume because that's really what people want to see and hear. They want numbers, quantified information. And so being able to say, yes, I served 200 individuals and I permanently housed 50 households. Like, wow. So it is a great way to also boost your, I don't know, self-brags about what you did during your service year. Yeah, basically explaining what I just said. But yeah, this is not an attempt to reduce people to numbers. We're not trying to capture every single interaction you have with everyone during your term of service. I know you all have, you interact with so many different people every day. What really matters is that we want to see who you've had substantial, significant engagement with. It's not meant to be a lot of work and really time consuming filling this out. I attach the performance measures onto every monthly email, and they're due at that monthly meeting. But really, I just want members to fill it out to the best of their ability with the information that they have. But I also, want you to know that really the only data that is crucial to us is how many individuals you served, how many households you served, and how many people were permanently housed. Like, that is what is most crucial. All the other information is supplemental. It's very helpful. But that's really what we're looking at and how we're setting our goals. So yeah, even though it's like boring numbers and paperwork, it is about sharing a story about the impact that we're making all across the state. And yeah, it's for everybody to show your community everything that you're doing to show it yourself. I mean, I love nothing more than telling members how many households they served in a month because it is something to be extremely proud of. Also to your site, your site has bought into AmeriCorps and they want to see um, what we can do with this partnership. And so the PM data is crucial to sharing it with them. This is quantifiably like how we support you and your site and your community. But also this data goes to the State Service Commission, it goes to AmeriCorps at the federal level, as well as Congress when we were asking for funding. So it's really important. So these are our goals. We're looking to have 800 individuals housed, 2,000 individuals served, 550 volunteers recruited, trained, managed. And this is our collective goal as a program. Not for you individually, you're welcome to make your own goal. But this is what we're looking at for a program. All of you serve varying capacities of people and in different ways. So for example, in like a shelter, you might have the same clients for that entire year. Whereas at like Family Service Society in Paducah, where they provide food boxes, I mean, they're serving hundreds constantly. So that goes into the other major aspect of performance measures is that I really want to support you in being able to figure out a system that works for you, being able to figure out a system that is easiest for you to collect data and is accessible to get that information. So definitely don't underreport, but also don't feel the need to like prove every single interaction that you had with a client. We only want to see substantial engagement. So, like if you're working at a front desk, for example, Noelle, and it's somebody that calls you and it's just like, I'm looking for homeless services in Ashland, Kentucky, and Noelle has a connect. And so he gives that person a phone number. Like that's not really substantial engagement. Um, But if it were like a significant like referral process or getting like a case started, helping them apply for something that's um, providing them with like, yeah, a food box, that's definitely substantial engagement and we want to see that. You have a comment here. Austin asked, since it would be a new project, will I need to report clients for last year if we get more funding for them this year? Okay, so returning members, um, yes. So for example, like, okay, let me back up a second. Do not duplicate performance measure forms. So once you've served a household and you complete a service form, that is the only service form that you complete for them for the rest of the year. There's a service form and a wrap-up form. You complete the wrap-up form when they've been permanently housed. Not everybody is going to get permanently housed, and that's okay. But for example, if you're serving in a shelter and you're a returning member and there's somebody that's living there still, they were living during your last term and in your new term, you would complete a new service form for them for this year. And you would say that services started during this service year. Does that answer your question, Austin? So they would technically be like new clients with the new program year, um, and would get a new service form. Good. Um, but yeah, so no for new members, no duplicates. That's what really matters. Everybody reports homeless services, housing services, or construction, like Austin just mentioned. He does construction with Pan in Paducah. Emily, Emily Morgan, um, you do what system works for you. Um, we can talk later. Emily is with yeah, Family Service Society, and so they are serving a lot of clients. I still haven't entered all of their performance measure data from the last program year. I'm working on that this month. Am I doing forms? But yes, they would technically be new clients in the new program year. But we'll figure out a way to make that easier to just like duplicate that data. We'll talk about that. And this is what I mean, and like all of you have very different systems at your site. And so we'll figure out a system that works for you while you're in the middle of the AmeriCorps world and your service site. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay. And yeah, like I said, just it's just reporting to the best of your ability, the information that you have. I do highly recommend filling out these while you still sort of have that client in your grasp while you're working with them, because once you do get them housed or you refer them elsewhere, it's going to be a really hard time um, to get that information that you may not already have. Okay. I wish I had just like a picture, but it was in the August, September email. They were attached the service form. It says step one. So the data that's collected, it'll be your name, your service site, and the date services began. So basically the date that your relationship began with that client. Code names. This is about confidentiality. It is crucial that your client, that household cannot be identified from that service form. And that's just like generally, they should not be identifiable. But on the service form specifically, make some kind of code name. I don't really care how you do it, just whatever works for you. If they're like initials and some number, whatever, whatever makes the most sense to you um, is fine, but it just shouldn't be identifiable. Let's see, we've got a comment. Yeah, that's fine too. Jennifer says I use the last four numbers in their phone number. That's a great idea. Um, yeah, some other way that you know who they are that is not that personal identification information. Um, and it's also for me. I mean, I don't know the names, but to make sure that like things aren't being duplicated and um, yeah. The household eligibility documentation. So yeah, just to the best of your ability. Every site does intake differently and has different um, intake processes and whatnot. So yeah, feel free to talk with me if you feel like the performance measure as it is like doesn't really capture um, what you're doing, and we can figure out some solution. But most of the time, like yeah, it's just filling it out to the best of your ability. And if you don't have that information, like that, the eligibility information, like that is okay. Household information, so it includes like race and ethnicity, age, I believe, and then like if they're an adult or a child. Okay, so a really important, not just with performance measures, but generally when you're doing case management, is to ask the individual the question. Do not assume their gender identity, sex, race, ethnicity. Ask them directly, and you can leave it blank if they don't want to respond. And then on the back of the service form, you'll see the types of services provided. And if what you did is not back there, there's an other line, and you can just write what housing service you provided. I'm going to take a sippy sip. Okay. Like I said, do not wait until they're already gone. because it's gonna be really hard to obtain that information at that point. Just try to do the best you can. Like I said, the data that is the most crucial to me and our program is households served, households housed, really. Everything else is also really helpful and helps tell a story. You know, how many single parents have we served? What did their incomes look like? Did we serve many veterans? Um, but our main goals are serving people and getting people housed. Only substantial engagement. If you're not sure about like a regular engagement you're having, if that's considered substantial, we can talk about it and determine whether that is substantial and you need to be completing service forms for that. 'Cause yeah, we don't want you underreporting or selling yourself short. But at the bare minimum, we need that code name, we need the start date, the individuals and children, and then at the bottom it says household type. So that's like if they are a single parent household, a two-parent household, one adult, two adult, intergenerational, and other. And they're attached on every monthly email, but I'm happy to send them whatever way, like, works best for you and your system. If you like hard copies, um, you can print yourself a bunch of hard copies, whatever works. The wrap-up form, so it'll be the same code name as was on the step 1 form, and you'll include the date that the services ended. So proof of housing, so these are basically the reasons why somebody would qualify as being permanently housed. So if they self-reported to your service site that they were permanently housed, some type of certificate of occupancy, if, you know, they were leased up, received a housing voucher. Well, a housing voucher doesn't always equal, like, permanent housing, but, like, a housing voucher and leased up, um, or, a completed construction project. Or if your site uses something else to demonstrate completion, we can talk about that. But the first service form, this is only signed by you and submitted to me at the monthly member meeting. The wrap-up form is signed by both you and your site supervisor. Okay? And some have asked, like, what if I work with a client, for example, I worked with a client um, in August, and let's say this is like at the end of September. And so you're like, I know that they're going to be leased up. You don't have to submit both step 1 and step 2 together. That's the purpose of the code names. Like that's what allows me to track it and keep everybody's like files continuous. So just submit what you have on that due date, and that's fine. So you'll complete that wrap-up form when construction's finished, they move into permanent housing, rent or utility assistance provided, and like eviction prevention, getting a housing voucher, lease signed, mortgage obtained. Yeah. So if again you have a question about what a wrap-up looks like or a situation of yours where it feels wrapped up but you're not sure, you can reach out and ask. But you do not fill out a wrap-up form when a household exits services before being housed. And again, not everybody's gonna get a wrap-up form, that's okay. If you're working with volunteers, there's a volunteer reporting form. You'll include your name, their service site, and what month you worked with those volunteers. You'll create a volunteer group name or ID, something that helps you track whoever that group was, the number of volunteers, whether they're recurring or episodic, which means like, do they come every week on a Tuesday and serve for an hour? Or was this just like a housing development alliance a couple weeks ago, they had like the entire University of Kentucky basketball team come. I'm extremely envious, but that was like an episodic volunteer project. And then the total number of hours served. If it is recurring, then we know that those hours like keep adding. So like I said, if you have 5 volunteers that work 6 hours each, that's 30 hours total. So yeah, avoid duplication if they are occurring. Only report volunteers 1 time a year, and try to update the number of hours served whenever applicable, whenever significant. Report on volunteers that you and you alone either trained, recruited, or managed, in order to provide housing or financial services. And not all of you are going to work with volunteers, and that's okay. I would check your position description. That'll tell you if volunteer work is in there. But yeah, it'll be due the 15th of every month. Weirdly, for some reason, like a lot of the 15ths of this program year land on a weekend. So check the AmeriCorps basically whenever we have monthly member meeting. That seems to be the easiest way when we virtually meet, and we can remind you all and to submit them. But where to report? You can really send me your performance measures, like whatever way works for you. So if you want to email me like the scan, if you want to mail me the physical copies, if you want to take pictures of it and text me to my direct line, like that's totally fine. If you prefer to use a PDF and just want to like send me that PDF link, like that's cool too. But yeah. If you don't report, I'm gonna reach out and be like, what's going on? Again, like some shelters, they're serving the same people for a while. And so it may not look like they're serving anybody new. And like that's okay. Um, but just update me. If you're not sending any, you can say like, hey, didn't serve anybody new this month. Um, whatever. Love to hear any other like updates or achievements you have going on. Um, but yeah, I will reach out to ask what's going on if I'm not receiving any. Just because I mean, you guys are the ones at your sites day to day. I have no idea what is going on unless you tell me about it. So communication is really key. And yeah, it is a part of the commitment in your agreement, and it's important, and it is beneficial for everybody involved, including yourself in documenting your achievements. Okay. All right. How are we feeling? I'm gonna go back to Zoom. Oh, okay. Hi, friends. It's getting a little dark here. Our final presentation is member development. So that's really like the big events for the upcoming year. Do we want to take a break or do we want to power through?
Either or.
Okay. I'm going to power through if that's all right with everybody. Okay, cool. And this one has a lot of cute pictures, so it's engaging. Um, so this is everything we have planned for this year. The purpose of all of the member development activities is really to help develop you all into civically engaged individuals. A lot of you already are, but being able to expand those connections, seeing other opportunities, getting engaged in other opportunities, um, that is really the bread and butter of, I think, what makes our program special. A lot of you I know do have firsthand experience, and you can empathize with your clients going through homelessness, going through addiction, going through housing insecurity. Um, and I sincerely value that. But not everybody has. I know when I served in city year and was placed in like an inner city school or whatever, like I had never experienced um, education, like an education ecosystem that was that um, debilitated. Um, and so just that exposure and being able to bear witness to reality is very powerful and really life-changing. Um, so we want you all to get that experience firsthand. All of the opportunities and stuff discussed, everything I share in the monthly emails, log all of that under AmeriCorps training. So we'll go over each of these individually, but these are really the big ones that we do. So up next will be the monthly virtual member meeting. I'll send out that link. It's on September 16th because the 15th is a Sunday. All members are required to attend virtually. It is both an opportunity to share program updates, share what's coming up, but we also usually include some type of professional development component. So previously I've done self-care. We've had somebody from like USDA come and talk about loans, or not USDA. I'm mixing up acronyms. My brain's getting fried at this point. I apologize, you guys. But we try to give you all, or we did one on like domestic violence, just to give like a better perspective. I know that like Disability Awareness Month is October, so I would really like to do something then. But it's an opportunity for us to connect, um, to get back to our AmeriCorps like service roots. Because yeah, it's easy to get caught in like autopilot at your site every day. But you are a part of something that is special. So if there's something in particular that you would find beneficial or that you'd like to talk about with the group, definitely bring it up to me. If it's something that would apply to everybody's service, we'll talk about it. If it's something that is more specific to like serving in a shelter or construction or case management intake, I'm planning on doing like office hours, focus groups where we will discuss, and it's not going to be like a development like lecture or anything. I genuinely want it to be a discussion with members from varying sites for everybody to share their expertise, how they've coped with similar difficulties, um, but also just for us to have a space of like sympathy for each other so we don't feel so alone in our service. But as I mentioned before, I know virtual meetings aren't as engaging, but I appreciate you all trying your best to be here and be present. So thank you for that now and during the rest of your service here. Um, we talked about camera etiquette in the beginning, um, but I might ask again at monthly meeting just to see how everybody feels about it. And then after our monthly meeting, also coming up in October, at the end of October, is the Kentucky AmeriCorps Accelerator. So this is pictures from last year, everybody. It is our annual meeting. It's really fun. It's all of the AmeriCorps state programs. So if you go to servekentucky.org, the Serve Kentucky website, and go to the AmeriCorps programs tab, you can see all of the different AmeriCorps programs in the state, and they'll all be there. And so they all have really cool, interesting projects, some related to health, some are like economic, like Appalachian development, working specifically in rural areas, but also a lot of education. We do breakout sessions. Last year we had, I think, written letters to veterans. We do the swearing ceremony and have some special local leaders come and talk to us about service. But yeah, it's just a great opportunity to meet with other AmeriCorps members and be able to attend trainings that you actually want to go to. They're all first come, first serve. Yeah, so you'll get like a big agenda, and I'll send all this information out as soon as it comes available. But you'll get an agenda of all of the different like workshops and breakout rooms that are available. And there's no like registration, you just go to whichever one interests you. So that's nice. And it's not just AmeriCorps people presenting, like they actually hire speakers, professional speakers and whatnot. And so they also have a lot of knowledge. Site visits, these will be going on like October to November. It's really nothing to worry about. Holly will be on maternity leave then, starting in October. Um, and so it'll just be me, sorry. But it's really just to check in and say hi, see if you're facing any obstacles and if there's anything we can do to make it better. It's really nothing to be nervous about. I really just like checking out your site, seeing what's going on. And my main goal as a member coordinator is to ensure your all's well-being. So it's fun. It's nothing to be scared of. We're all gonna have fun. The point in time count, it's also called the K count. This happens in January. The Kentucky Housing Corporation will release a date soon, but it's basically like a homelessness census where we're trying to count the number of sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single night. Um, the reason why we do this is to help understand homelessness in your community and statewide, and you know how what systems are in place to like collect data on that. Um, if your county doesn't participate, um, some like Lexington and Louisville already have like a squad of people that do it. Like they don't work with volunteers. Um, but so yeah, if you're not able to, like we'll figure out some other type of project. If you're able to like collect donations and put together, we call them like care bags, which is basically just like the essentials, some snacks, toiletries, sanitary items, things like that. You could do something like that. Um, yeah. MLK project. So that's what we did for our MLK project. We got snowed out, but we made care bags and we gave those out during the K count. That was a little later. MLK Day will be on January 20th. Oh, January 20th, 2025. Even though MLK Junior Day is a federal holiday, it is not one that AmeriCorps observes because it is specifically a day of service. Every AmeriCorps member, like all across the country, is not taking this day off. And I think that's something to be proud about. And so once we get closer to then, we'll begin planning fun projects. So we'll plan a group project and y'all are welcome to join, but if you're not able to make it, we can brainstorm something else that you would like to do. Public awareness activity. We want you all to be able to get comfortable engaging with your community and talking to members of your community that you don't know about what you do and what resources are available to them. So as long as you are educating members of your community about either AmeriCorps, homelessness, lack of affordable housing in Kentucky, or services that your site provides, that is a fine public awareness activity. And really the point of all of these development activities is just to get you all like out of your site and doing something different, to be able to get a new perspective, to see the bigger picture of housing because yeah, the continuum is great, and the service that you're doing is usually on just like one tiny little bit of that continuum. You know, you're just helping people work on getting a mortgage, or you're just helping people with food security, or you're just helping people apply for some benefit. But all of those people are at very different parts of the continuum of housing insecurity and homelessness. And so I think it's crucial to have um, an understanding of all of the different aspects that it takes um, to create better housing security. It has to be created by us. Other ideas for this activity, you could create a video about your service with AmeriCorps, some type of highlight for your site to publish. You can meet with local clubs. Oops. You can lead an information booth at a local community event, present to college or high school students. I believe this is Ashley and Michael. They're with HDA. I believe they went to a high school to talk with them about HDA's programs, but also volunteer opportunities. And then I also made a note here that the National Hunger and Homeless Awareness Week is November 17th through the 23rd. and there's a homeless memorial in Hunger Awareness Week, December 21st through 28th. So then would be like a really great time to, yeah, you could organize like a homeless memorial in your city. Um, the Serve Kentucky member roundtables, this won't be available to everybody. It'll be announced in a little bit. They're usually around January to April of next year. But if Serve Kentucky is having a roundtable near you, like in your county, I'll give you the details. We need to have at least one member like from that area go. But it is a really great opportunity to both meet with the program officer, meet with other AmeriCorps members that are serving in your area because it's all of the programs, not just yours. And it's also an opportunity to share your perspective with our program officer, Andrew Stith, about how your service has been going and if there's any room for improvement. So yeah, if that opportunity is available to you, if they're coming near you, then I will share that information. Our spring service project, there's Austin. Um, but our spring service project, we like you all to work with your hands if at all possible. So we usually partner with a construction organization. We partnered with Honk this year. That is Emily D's site. And we basically just gutted a house. And we were one of the first people in this house after it had been foreclosed or whatnot. But Austin does construction anyways all the time, so he didn't really get a break from that. But we really did appreciate his expertise. But yeah, it's again just trying to get you all out and doing something and to see a different aspect. Um, and if you're not interested in doing construction or a project like this, like we'll figure something else out. While we were at Honk, we had members that didn't want to do the construction project go to a why am I blanking? Not a food bank, but they like prepared meals for people at Honk's um, food access building. And then finally, our end of year celebration. So these are all the beautiful babies that graduated recently. We met up in Frankfurt. Not saying that we will every time. We've just been close by for this period of time and having stuff like orientation in and KAA in Lexington and Frankfurt because Holly is very pregnant. So that's why we've been close. Um, but it'll be in mid-July. Don't know where yet. Um, we'll send details as we're planning. Um, but basically, what we do at end of year is we reflect on your year of service. But we also, I think the most important part is sharing resources on how exactly to use your education award, how to apply for the interest payment. And we also talk about career resources, how to really leverage your service year um, to boost your career search once you're done serving. I discussed this a little bit, but I do want to be planning hopefully bi-monthly virtual office hours to discuss specific topics. So things like things that you all have brought up to me a lot about like consistent obstacles or like de-escalation, serving in a shelter, taking case notes, opportunities in the nonprofit sector. And some of you all have already expressed interest in some of these in particular, so I've put them a little higher on the list for us to talk about, but this is not required. It's not for you don't have to attend unless you want to, if you think that it would benefit you, but know that it will be with other members and it will be a discussion for everybody to share their experiences and their best practices and advice on how they navigate these common things. Because yeah, it can feel very lonely at your site, and you may not even realize that an issue you're having all the time has already been dealt with long ago by a member that's been serving with us for years, you know? So it's important to just talk about it. Also, my email signature, you can see there, you will always have access to my availability, and you can schedule a meeting using that link. And there's a screenshot there that kind of shows you, um, you can book like a 30-minute slot. Um, and